Friends, welcome. I wanted to just do a little video on the side here today. I do this video every year. Today is my anniversary with my wife, and we've been married for 18 years, and this is my 6th or 7th take of this video because you know me, I get emotional when I talk about my family, and I end up crying. But I want to tell you how I met my wife. It's kind of really cool. So after college, I got a job in Omaha, Nebraska. And ended up moving in with my brother, and we lived together for a while. And we had a fire at our home that we were living in while I was out of town, and I came home, and the only place for us to go was home with Mom. So now I'm in my late 20s living in my mom's basement trying to get a new home together or find a new place to live. And so as a resident in my mom's home, she's using AOL technology back then, which was primary 18 years ago. Everybody pretty much remembers, you've got mail. So in doing some work at home one day, I went into a chat room. It was an option on the left side. You could do a chat, and people were doing ASL. Well, I thought it was probably something inappropriate, but I said, what is ASL? Because I was curious. They said age, sex, location. So I put in that I was 28. I think I was 28 at the time. Pretty sure I was. Male, Omaha. And somebody responded and said female. I won't give her age, but Lincoln, Nebraska. So I'm like, well, this is, hi, how you doing? We talked back and forth quite a bit. And for a month or so. And then I asked for a phone number. And she gave me her number. And most people might think by today's standards that this is a little bit weird, but I talked on the phone with my future wife for 6 months before we ever met. I was busy with work and life and things like that, trying to get things back together after the fire, and she was busy as a medical professional working at a hospital in Lincoln, Nebraska. So although it might seem weird that we didn't meet for 6 months, Lincoln's about 60 miles away from Omaha, so it's not a long drive, but it's not a short commute either, right? So it would take me some time to get there. So we had just, and getting off work late, 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, the job I had required a lot of attention and long hours, also travel. So I know I'm making a lot of excuses here, but we didn't meet for 6 months. One day I asked her if she wanted to meet on a Friday night, and let's go meet at Old Chicago in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we've been back to that Old Chicago. We go to Husker games all the time now on Saturdays, and we'll take a lift over to Old Chicago, and we'll sit in the table we sat at when we met, and we do a lot of things in Lincoln that we used to do, just kind of walking down memory lane. I have an amazingly positive relationship with my spouse. She is my best friend. So we met at Old Chicago. Here's the funny story. So I showed up early, and I went into the bathroom, and I waited for her to show up. And so while she was coming, I talked to her on the phone. She said she was there and that she was going to get a table, and I told her I'd be there soon. Well, I asked her where she was sitting, and then I went out of the bathroom. Keep in mind, we didn't have cell phones that you could send pictures and things like that. So virtually every interaction that I had had with my future wife was conversation on a phone, and we got to know each other extremely well over 6 months of talking every day on the phone. It's the best way to meet somebody. So I'm sorry that it's kind of gone today. So she didn't know what I looked like. And I'm nervous because I'm handicapped and I walk with a limp, and you know me, I just get a little subconscious about that sometimes. So I was interested in how she might respond when she meets me, like not every woman in the world is like waiting for a bald-headed handicapped guy to come into their life, right? So I'm a little nervous, and at that time I wasn't even balding. I just had what became known as, I had like a little tuft of hair right here in the front that I would comb back, and then all this back here still grows, so I had that hair. It wasn't a good look for a 28-year-old guy, right? And I'm very nervous on meeting her. And I walked out by the table and where she was sitting, and she was beautiful, She had on jeans. Oh man, that was cray. But she did look beautiful. Jeans and a white button-up t-shirt, and she looked great. And so I went back around again, and I sat down with her, and I was like, hey, how you doing? You know, kind of like I had just gotten there. I was honest, though, and I told her I walked by the table, and we still laugh about that. But it really wasn't me seeing what she was like. She was beautiful. I already knew her heart, and I already knew that I loved her after 6 months. If you talk to my wife for 6 months, you would love her too. She's amazing, and she's smart, and she's moral, and every good thing you can think about a woman, like all the positive things. You know, my wife dresses with character, but moral character. And she's just a nice woman. If you've ever met my wife, you would think she's a really nice lady. She's been the best thing that ever happened to me in my life from a business standpoint, because I'm always happy to show people my family. I think if people meet my wife, they're like, wow, if a woman like that is with him, he must not be too bad either. You know, she's been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. So we met, hung out for a while. The next day I came back down to Lincoln, and we watched Austin Powers, and we hung out. We used to watch something that's so funny. You may know this show. It was on PBS, and it was called Talk Sex with Sue Johansson. And she's been on Johnny Carson and all the talk shows. And she had these like little like moldable dolls, and people would call in with the weirdest questions, and she would just straight face answer them. And my wife and I would sit on. I remember that first night when we hung out that next day. We just sat on the couch. I had never laughed with somebody so hard in my life. To this day, when we were laughing on that couch, I've never laughed with anybody so much. It was hilarious. I mean, it was funny. It was also immature of us, but so what? And she had a lot of other movies and stuff. And so we hung out late that night. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up the next morning, and I'm still on the couch. She was in her bedroom, and that's kind of cool. And I like that memory that I stayed on the couch. And that's where I was. And when I woke up the next morning, and I remember just laying there until she got up. And then we had breakfast. We made breakfast together. And then it was the weekend, and we hung out. And sometimes we would go to Barnes & Noble and get coffee and things like that. So I'll never forget that first weekend together. It was a lot of fun. So now I'm hooked. And I'm going back to Lincoln pretty much every day. Work, I was doing work, but I was more focused on my wife, and inevitably that job did go away not because of my wife, but I think I just became more focused on something else. Love, I guess. And so I'm living that down with my mother, and then things actually didn't go so well with work, and so I ended up, it's even worse, right? I have a college degree. I'm living in my mom's basement, and I don't have a job. And what does my wife think's a good idea? Hey, why don't you come and live with me? So anything to get out of the house, you know, and I thought about it, and you know what? We just packed everything up, and I went down to Lincoln. Now, at the time, she was living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and her roommate had moved out. So now she's one person in a 2-bedroom apartment. So she's like, I got an extra bedroom. If you want to come down here, that's fine. So this is the thing that my wife did. I lived with her for quite a few months before anything happened. We had interviewed with multiple companies. I'm trying to start businesses, and I'll never forget one company had flown us down to Texas, and we were down, where were we in Texas? In South Padre Island. That's where we were. My wife's sitting here. she comes in and watches me do my videos every day. And so after work each day I do my videos. So today I was going to do videos, and she didn't know I was going to do this. But here I am. It's my YouTube channel, so I guess I can use it for what I want. And I think people want to get to know me a little better, I hope. So I'll end up moving in with my wife, and so I lived with her for several months where she paid all the bills, fed me, everything, and we didn't argue or fight. We don't really now, but if we have disagreements, they're very mild, and we usually work everything out right away. But she never once said, "You're sleeping on my couch, you're a loser." You know, how many people would let you just like stay and never ask for any sort of money or support? She was a medical professional, and she made pretty good money, so she just took it upon herself to take care of me for a while. And I told her that, one day you're never going to have to work another day in your life. And I'll never forget when my wife quit the medical profession. Her parents were a little upset, saying, "You need something. You're going to need something to fall back on. What if something happens?" And they didn't know that I had made this promise to my wife. But I've kept that promise for the last 18 years. And my wife doesn't have to work if she doesn't want to. She doesn't have to clean house. She doesn't do anything, because she showed me the most unconditional love I've ever been shown by anybody in my entire life. She took care of me. She never said, "Hey, you're a loser," or, "Yeah, that one didn't work out, that interview didn't work out," or whatever, and I'm just sleeping on the couch. She never once. She just loved me and took care of me, and we were building a relationship. How many people would do that? Not a lot. Not in today's world. And we're only talking about 18 years ago, so it's not that long ago. And I guess when we lived together for quite a while before we got married for 4 years, so it's been about 22 years ago, I guess. But still, it just proved to me who my wife is as an individual. So we lived together in Lincoln for a while. Things started to work out with entrepreneur-wise and starting businesses. And we moved to Omaha, and we had a really cool condo there, and we loved it. Inevitably, I bought her a farm in Iowa. And we ended up living in Iowa for quite a few years. And that's actually where we lived when we had our first daughter. But I'll never forget that. One thing I forgot to mention, when we went out on our first date, my wife told me she was never getting married and she was never having children, because she was going to be a medical professional and she was focused on her career. And when we got married, she worked for 2 years after we got married, and then we had a child, and Sarah, and I wanted her to work from home, be a mom. I wanted our child to grow up with a mom in the house. It's really important, right? And so in the work that I was doing at the time, as a business owner, I could be home a lot as well. And we lived on a property in Iowa for years. And then things really started to take off from a business standpoint, and it required me to travel all the time. And so I took my family with me. And we ended up, when Audrey was young, and she's my 13-year-old. So Sarah's my 15-year-old. Audrey's my 13-year-old. We were in Arizona at the time, and Kristen was pregnant, traveling around with me, and ended up having Audrey in Arizona. And business was really good, and we ended up traveling quite a bit. About 12 years ago, we started slowing down, and we just found a place to be in Colorado, and we've just stayed here. We have so many memories, and I could run this camera into the dirt telling you all the stories and all the travel experiences, and some good and some really bad, and some business ventures that went extremely well, probably better than anything you could ever imagine. And I remember being in a car driving across the country to an opportunity, broke, and no place to go to when we got there. I'll never forget that time. So it hasn't always been good. It hasn't always been bad. The good's been more than the bad. And we just keep moving. We have amazing kids. They're just like their mom, thankfully. They have moral character, and they're good kids. They're good decision makers. They have good caring hearts. I never had the kids that got under the table at the restaurant and stuff like that. My kids have always sat in the chair and always presented themselves in a very appropriate way, or what we would deem appropriate. But yeah, it's been a really great run. And my kids, I have a 15-year-old who's in she's doing multiple years of college now. You ask how? Well, she was dually enrolled when she was in high school, because high school wasn't challenging enough for her. So she did college and high school at the same time. I have a 13-year-old that is the most creative little girl you could ever meet. She writes books that sometimes I'm like, you had to have stolen this from the internet. But then I'll copy it, throw it in ChatGPT, and say, find this on the internet, and it's unique. And she's just so amazing. Now, I'm not downing my child. I'm just like, wow, you are so incredible. It's unbelievable that you have the ability to do this. And through no fault of her own, her father goes out and proves to himself how amazing his children are. But what a great run. And I tell you what, I wouldn't give any of it up for anything. When I was 16, I was killed in a car accident. I died for almost an hour in an ICU, and that was the longest clinically documented death case in America. After my accident, I had some of the best medical professionals in the United States telling me, due to a lawsuit that I had going on, they were telling me that, well, you're not going to be able to do much of anything, and you'll be lucky to live past the age of 30. I couldn't use my left arm for much back then. Still really can't. But, they just kind of set me up for hey, you'll be lucky to make it to 30, and we don't know, what's going to happen. I do know they were setting me up for vocational rehabilitation and trying to get me on disability and things like that, and a lot of medications and a lot of things and future surgeries. Do you know I wasn't ever supposed to walk again? And when I walked out of that hospital, I walked away from medicine completely. I haven't been back for a checkup. I have a synthetic graft here in my neck, and my carotid artery it's a fake artery because of a huge golf ball sized blood clot that had formed there as a result of my accident, and pieces broke off and went up into my head, and it killed me for almost an hour. So, and then I had an aneurysm in my innominate artery in my chest, and I have a fake artery there. So I'm cut from here all the way down to my belly. And so I just never went back. I walked away, and I thought, well, if I'm only going to live to 30, what do I got to lose? I might as well get on it and get moving. I was able to do some physical rehabilitation, but I just kind of got tired of that too after a while. I'm sure I could probably walk better, or I know I could use my left hand or my left arm better, but man, I'd had enough. I was tired. I was just beat and tired. And I never, ever, 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 ever thought that I would meet somebody so amazing. If anybody shouldn't have been able to get somebody like my wife, it was this guy, okay? It blows me away. The amount of success that we've had in our lives up until now, and the continuation of such a beautiful relationship. I always think this is more than I deserve. But it's our 18-year anniversary today. and I love it. It's a journey that started with two hearts full of dreams and promises. And as I'm sitting here talking to you, just babbling, because I want to share my story, and there's so much more to it. Everybody has a story, right? If I cover all the points, I'll be here forever. But we have so many incredible stories, and they're mostly positive, and it's just been really great. So, I'm just overwhelmed, I guess, with gratitude for every moment that I've spent with my wife. The laughter that echoed through our home, the quiet moments where words have been unnecessary, and the challenges that only strengthen the bond we share. And we've been through some things, let me tell you, and it would have broken anybody else. And I know people around us even thought, oh, this is probably going to be over, and they were completely wrong. My wife and I have moved beyond everybody's expectations. We're unbreakable, and we'll be together forever. So for us, 18 years is more than just a number. It's a testament to the love, patience, and dedication that have guided us. And my wife has been more than a partner. She's been my confidant, my source of strength, and my greatest blessing. Her smile has been a beacon lighting up even my darkest days. And I'm going to get through this one. I'm not turning the camera off and doing another. So this is going to be it. Her smile has been my beacon lighting up even my darkest days, and her love has been so constant in my life that it has made my life beautifully complete. So, man, I have the hardest time getting through this. I don't know why. If you're still watching, thanks. We've grown together, we've learned and adapted, becoming not just a couple, we're a team. And the life we've built is filled with memories, shared dreams, and countless little moments that have meant the world to me. I am grateful for the home we have, not just the place, but the feeling. We have a home, and it's one filled with warmth, love, and unwavering support. So, my wife today will just want to lay in bed and cuddle and watch a mushy movie. Her favorite movie is You Before Me, and I love that movie too, so we'll probably end up watching that. I want you to know the secret, though. When we watch the movie You Before Me, but when the caregiver and the guy in the wheelchair fall in love, they're watching a movie, and it brings them together. It's a French subtitled movie that they watch while they fall in love. So, my wife's so cool. We watch You Before Me. Then after that, we watch that French movie that the people were watching when they fall in love. So, that's my favorite thing to do with her. So, sorry I'm getting so upset. God, I love my wife so much, and I always get so emotional. You've seen this video last year. I cried then, too. I'm sorry. I thought I was going to be bold and strong, and, my wife just, she melts my heart every time I think about her. So, as we celebrate today, my heart is full of knowing that this is just one chapter in the story of us. I always have this on my little hutch in the back. This is the story of us, and it's a book that my wife had written, and it's our story. And so I put it behind me because when I look in the camera, I can see, and when I see this, it reminds me of her, and it makes me feel comfortable in my own skin and able to move forward. So she really is the best. All of our employees are going to watch this, and they're going to be like, Doug cried. Did you see Doug cry? I'm going to hold it together, though, because I tell you, one thing this book reminds me of is there's more chapters to be written, more laughter, and more of the simple, perfect moments that make life with her so precious. And I do want to thank my wife for being the incredible person that she is and for choosing to walk this path with me every day. It's not easy to be married to a guy with brain damage that we have so much going on in our lives, and there's always so many questions, because sometimes when people look at me, I don't really exude confidence, like, hey, wow, you're Doug Vandergraph, and I'm just a handicapped guy standing there. But, the one thing is, I always know that when I'm there, my wife's holding my hand, and she'll squeeze my hand a little bit, and that reminds me of who I am and how strong I am. And yes, I am Doug Vandergraph. And that's the deal. So today is my 18-year anniversary with my wife. Sorry I cried so much. I hope I made sense. I just get so upset. And it's not negative upset. It's I love her so much. A flood of memories has just come into my mind as I'm talking to you on camera today, and it's just it's so good, so positive, and it's better than anything I ever could have expected to ever happen to somebody like me. When I say somebody like me, I'm not a bad person. I just mean they told me I would never have any of this. And now I have more of this than most people. They told me I wasn't going to be capable of doing so much. And now I do so much more than most people. I'm never going to stop. I'm going to keep going forever. Or for as long as I'm here. We all die someday, but I'm going to keep going the best I can. And while I do that, I'm going to be hugging my family and holding them the whole way forward, always, because they're my team. And the leader of that team is my wife. And I wish I could tell you more of the memories that we have from living in Lincoln. God, we'd grill out on the back patio, and she would make steaks and hamburgers, and she would make these sweet onions. They were Vidalia onions, and she would wrap them in tin foil and put Worcestershire sauce and brown sugar, and they were delicious. And we would make bratwursts, and it would be like a picnic or a family outing, but it would just be me and her. And when we lived in Lincoln, we were poor because I didn't have an income, and so I had savings, but that was it. And she was supporting us, so we couldn't afford to really go out. I remember one time we went out to a restaurant, and they made these purple drinks, but the ingredients they made them with was really expensive. It was like Grand Marnier and some other things. So we went to Costco, like Super Saver grocery store, and in their liquor department we tried to find all the ingredients, and they had the expensive ones, but we bought the off-brand of the expensive versions, and we went home and made them. They were called Sobeys. If you look it up online, Sobey in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're awesome, and the restaurant that makes them, they're the best. But the Sobeys we made were bleh. They were horrible, but we laughed about it. It's so funny. I want to tell you, when things really started working out for us financially with business, and our dreams started coming true, one time I took my wife to dinner, and dinner was more than $100, and we weren't married yet. We started hitting it off and having success way before we got married, and she started crying. She saw the bill and she started crying. And I was like, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "Because you have to spend $100 on dinner for me." And the one thing my wife didn't realize is that she's worth so much more. But I never had anybody cry. She was crying at the at the table. She was so upset that dinner was over $100. And she's just always had such a good heart like that. But I'll never forget that time. And that was it. And we've just had a good life, so. But she was so upset when we spent $100 on dinner. She didn't think that it was like the hardest thing anybody had ever said to me, because she said, "Oh my God, I'm not worth that. Why are you spending so much money on me?" And it was just dinner, and now it's really not a big deal. I mean, now she doesn't cry at all when dinner's $5,000-$6,000, but back at that time, money meant something that was really, money was a big thing to us at the time. And if anybody deserved for me to spend what I did have on them, my wife deserved that. And that's a cool memory. We just had so many amazing memories. In Lincoln, we used to go to this restaurant. It was a Mexican restaurant called Mazatlan. And we would go there, and it was cheap. So we could get a bunch of food for inexpensive because we didn't have a lot of money. And a couple of months ago, we took a Lyft and we went there. And it was the same. And it was awesome. And I loved it. And it brought back so many good memories. You know, I'll never forget. It was our second or third. It was our third date, I believe. And I took my wife. The thing at the time that was really cool was to go to martini bars and have martinis. So I hope you don't mind. My nose is running. So we went to. We used to go. So we thought we'd try a martini bar, and that was when we first started dating. And I was working and had money, and everything was great. And I'll never forget. We were listening to "Let's Get It On," that song by Marvin Gaye. Is it Marvin Gaye? Yeah. And we were sitting there, and I was singing the song, and we were talking, and then I turned to her, and she turned to me, and that was when we had our very first kiss. And I'll never forget it, because it's the best kiss I've ever had in my life. And yep, that's true. That happened. And I mean, otherwise, we've just had a really great run. We've lived in pretty much every state in the country as a result of business ventures and different business-related activities. Our least favorite state that we lived in was California, because in California, we felt like we were having to dress like we were in church every day or going to church, because everybody always dresses in their fancy clothes, and we're just kind of t-shirt and shorts kind of people. And you know, when you meet somebody, it's kind of like, "Hi, I'm Doug Vandergraph," and they would say, it felt like they were saying, "Hi, my car's better than yours." You know what I mean? It's that one-up attitude, you know, that that really burned us from that. And now that we can basically have anything we want, we just have a nice, comfortable home, and that's it. We actually take lifts when we go places for the most part. So the need for a car in this house is actually non-existent. We could totally get on without one. My wife actually doesn't even have a driver's license, so. But I don't know. You know, we've focused on the things that are important to us, and that's our relationship and our children. And our children are a direct reflection of that focus. My 13-year-old's about to graduate from high school. My 15-year-old's about to graduate from college. I mean, they're both on the same track. They both have the same level of intelligence. 18 years, my kids couldn't tell you what McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell tastes like. We've never taken our kids to a fast food restaurant, ever. And the restaurants that we do eat at, we're pretty picky on where we go, with the realization that somebody's just trying to buy the lowest cost ingredients they can get so they can charge the most amount of money so they can keep the doors open. And I definitely can't be against that. But we like to eat at home Because at home we control our ingredients, we control how things are cooked, and we have the ability to instill a level of nutrition that we think is appropriate, not only for our kids, but for ourselves. It's kind of an adult move with eating. I think it's coming around right now, and I see a lot of videos about it on YouTube. So I think people are smartening up about what they're putting into their bodies, and that's a good thing. But, so Kristen, thank you. Because without you, I wouldn't be here. And I tell you what, boy, I'd do it all again. Actually, I wish we could. I hope that there is reincarnation and I get to come back and do this whole thing again with my wife. Because I do every day, every moment, all over again. She's incredible. And if you've ever met my wife, and I know thousands of you have, you know that she has just something about her that is amazing. So without her, I'd just be Doug. And there's not really a whole lot amazing about that, let me tell you. But boy, I'm just so happy, and I just wanted to use this time to thank my wife for 18 years of happiness. And she's thinking it's probably more like 24 to 25 years of happiness, because we were together for a while before we got married. When we did get married, this is kind of a cool story. So I told you our least favorite state we lived in was California. So one of the very first months that we were together, and I brought her to Estes Park, Colorado, because that was a cool place. She had never been to the mountains before, and I wanted to take her to the mountains. So I took her to Estes Park, and we went into Rocky Mountain National Park, and we found a tree. And on that tree, I put my initials, Heart, her initials. I carved that into the tree. So 10 years later, 10, 11 years, well, it's been 12 years. So 12 years later, we're in California. We've had it. We don't want to be in California anymore. And I'm like, let's take a trip to Colorado and let's go check it out. So we went to Colorado, and when we got married at the St. Malo in Ellens Park, Colorado. So we got married here in Colorado. When we got married, we came back with our older children, and we found the tree. And we carved there, and our initials were still there. So we carved their initials below ours. And while we were at breakfast one morning, while we were on vacation here, I went on Craigslist, found a corporate rental. I called them and said, is it still available? And they said it was. I said, can we come take a look at it? They said we could. We went and took a look at it. I signed a lease, and we haven't been back to California in 12 years. The house, the car, the clothes, the toys, everything is still there. And, that's the deal. We just never went back. We fell in love with Colorado, and we've stayed here ever since. I'll never forget that little 2-bedroom condo. It had a queen bed in it, and it had a king bed in the master bedroom, and then the second bedroom had a queen bed. And so our girls slept together in the same bed for almost a year. And then we got them little double beds, and we took that queen bed out, and we lived there for a while off and on. We were still traveling around the country, but we lived there, and that was so much fun. And home base has been Colorado ever since. I don't have anything against California. There was 99% of it was perfect. It was the 1%er circle that we were running around with in California that kind of put a bad taste in our mouth. But, I grew up in a single-parent family where I didn't have a lot of money or a lot of things growing up. And when I finally got to the point in my life where I could have things, I just, in my heart, I'm not a person that needs things like that. And it kind of turned me off to be around people whose main focus was things like fast cars and gold chains and, whatever else they think they need to have. We were kind of like, I just needed a car that would get my family around and stuff like that, and I'm still that way. So, and my wife's that way too. She grew up in a small town in Nebraska, and she had a very good life. Her father was a very successful business owner, and so she grew up having pretty much everything a little girl would need and want, including good family. She has 2 brothers and a mom and dad that are still alive. And so she grew up in a little bit different of a circumstance, kind of that small town circumstance where everybody knows everybody and everybody can tell you what everybody else was doing yesterday, And they're still like that there. Whenever we go and visit, we get the rundown, right, of what's going on in town, and I just love that. I still subscribe to that small town newspaper from my wife. It comes every weekend, and we get a kick out of looking at what's going on in her old hometown. And every once in a while, we'll jump in the car for a 7-hour drive to her hometown. And just on a whim, and then we go. There's a couple of little restaurants we like to go there. One has the best darn hamburgers I've ever had in my life. So when I need a good hamburger, we just jump in the car and drive 7 hours and go get a hamburger. Usually a hamburger and a beer. It's worth it, but they have a hamburger platter. It's hamburgers and french fries, and I'll usually eat 2. 2 hamburgers and 2 full orders of french fries. It's just so good. And then there's another place we go to where sometimes if you just need a steak and you just want to get a steak at a restaurant, then we go to her small town, and there's a restaurant there that we go to, and I love it. Here's why I love it, and I want to tell you. Because the steaks are great, right? But when you go in there, they have a regular kitchen, like top and bottom refrigerator freezer. And they'll open the top freezer part and take out a steak and put it in and get it going for us. I don't know how they thought, but whatever they do, it's wonderful. And then they grill it up, and we like it medium rare. And then they'll get out, and I love this, they'll get out a bag. When you go to the grocery store, they have the bags of lettuce. So they'll get out a bag of lettuce, and they'll put it into a Tupperware bowl. And a lot of you will remember Tupperware, but it's so cool. So then they'll go back into a second room, and they'll set the Tupperware bowl there, and then they have like those crackers. They're called the Keebler crackers, the butter crackers, and they're awesome. And you mash those up in the bag, and then you open up the little single serving bag, and you dump the crackers on the lettuce, and then they have a big tub of Dorothy Lynch. I don't know if you've ever had Dorothy Lynch, but everything that's wrong with sugar and everything is a part of Dorothy Lynch. It is so good. And so we'll put a bunch of Dorothy Lynch on top, and it's in a styrofoam bowl with a plastic fork. And it's just the way it was when I was younger, and I grew up in a small town for a brief period of time when my family farmed. My dad went bankrupt in the 80s, but we farmed for many years when I was growing up. And I'll just remember going to the restaurant local to in our small town, and it was the same way. I just love that. There's something so homey about it. And every time we go in there, it's the same 16 to 18 local people that are there having pretty much the same conversation they were having last time we were there. And these are things that I love about being with my wife, too. I think a lot of what I loved about in my childhood, I still find with her. I found somebody who had similar experiences growing up. And I get to relive a little bit of my childhood when I take her back, in time to her home and to the people that she knew there. She's quite a bit different than most of the people her age that she went to school with. A lot of them stuck around town, got involved with the town, and are, doing quite well. And it's just a little bit different of a path. We've pretty much lived all over the world and had all kinds of different experiences, good and bad, and sometimes we're really fun to talk to because we've had some incredible experiences But, okay, well, I guess my wife sat here all this time, and I'm going to do some videos for us to watch today as well, the same format. But I just thought I'd share this, because I wanted everybody to know how important my wife is to me, and that today's our anniversary, and just share a little bit of our stories and the things that we like to do. There's so much more. Maybe next year I'll come back with a whole new set of stories and things like that. I'm going to put this out there. I hope that people like it, and that's it. I'm glad that I kind of got over the emotional aspect of things. Sorry I cried so much. I just love my wife more than anything in the whole wide world, and I get that flood of memories, and it warms my heart. She changed everything for me. She changed me from the top all the way down to the bottom, and I'm a better man for being married to her. That's 100% the truth. So, hope you have a beautiful day. We're going to watch movies and just spend some time together, but I bet we'll have a great day too. I hope you take care, friends. I'll see you in the other videos. You know I post 4 videos a day. This isn't going to be one. This will just be one for today. I'll still do my regular 4 videos. Take care. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon.